was lucky enough to find something that I loved at, 10 years old, but not everyone does that. Not everyone knows what they're going to do for the rest of their lives. And not everyone, I think, believes that what they love to do when they're 10 or 15 or even 20 could be a future. I truly believe that whatever you have passion for, whatever you think about, whatever you might do extracurricular activities with, you could make a career out of that. Like, look, I probably wasn't going to be a basketball player, but, then again, I wasn't dunking on the weekends or anything. So, you just have to find what you love, and then, that's your best chance at being most successful, because you're going to be willing to get back up again after you've been knocked down.
That's great advice for anybody. Is there anything else you want to tell the youth as far as?
I think I pretty much covered it right there.
Good. I think it was.
But no, that's true. You just, for kids to, and this is probably for parents too, but my parents, they were, I was lucky. They let me try a lot of things. I did tumbling and volleyball, basketball, cheerleading. Yes, I was a cheerleader for 5 years, and until I did get kicked off cheerleading though, because I was gone for racing too much. So anyway,
right.
Yeah, I was in the band, I was in choir, I did everything, and everything I could do. I did t-ball, coach pitch, you name it. I didn't play soccer though. That was about the only thing. Wasn't interested in that one. But I tried most everything, and through that I also tried racing, and it gave me, when you expose, when I was exposed to so much, I had a much better chance of finding something that I love to do than others who might not have had that opportunity.
That's all great advice for the parents and children too. That's good. NASCAR and IndyCar. There's a difference between those two sanctioning bodies,
yes.
The cars themselves. What's the difference for you? What can you describe to our fans the difference between the jump train, an open wheel, and then the NASCAR?
It took me a while to, just like in IndyCar, it took me a long time to, get used to how the flow of the race goes, and when you need to push, when you shouldn't, when you should. Just kind of, there's just rhythms to races, and it took a while to get used to that and understanding which critical parts of the race were super important, and when you really had to push. And so I had to do the same thing in NASCAR to learn those things. But as far as jumping back and forth between the cars, it's like driving a sports car and van. They're pretty different. I feel like there'd be more difficulty. Like, I've done some NASCAR weekends where I drove, let's say, last year at Dover, I drove in 2 different series. I drove in a Pro East race, which is a small division in NASCAR, and I also drove in the Nationwide series. And practice was going fine in the Nationwide car, practice was going good in the East car, and I did the Pro East race on Friday night, and fine. I finished like 6th or something. I got good experience on the track. And then the next morning I had to go out there. And the cars are similar, and they're stock cars. They have different tires, but, still a stock car. And I went out there and I qualified like last because I didn't have a feel for the car. It was too similar to feel the difference. So when I go from an IndyCar to a stock car, they're so different. They don't, it doesn't translate that much. So I don't know any different though either. So
that's a good answer. I like the van and the sports car. I think it's similar in that way.
An IndyCar is, it stops on a dime, it accelerates, the brakes stay with you, the tires stay with you. You go through it, you go on a mile and a half. Like, when we raced at Michigan here in the IndyCar, as soon as it went green, you did not lift. And your job was to do anything it took to find a lane that was open that you could keep your foot down. Because if you didn't, it was so easy to lose the draft here, and you'd drop back, and you'd lose the pack, and you'd have to hope for a yellow flag just to catch back up. Or people were coming. The leaders were going to come back around pretty quickly. So, but it's in stock cars. I think I was probably using a brake here a little bit when I was in stock cars. So it's very different. The cars just don't change in IndyCar. It's like qualifying every lap, and in a stock car it takes a little bit more, you have to plan a little bit more and think ahead and take care of your equipment a little bit and pick your time. And It's just different.
Good. So innovation is really important in racing. What are some of the coolest innovations that you've seen, or the best innovations you've seen in racing?
I don't. I mean, innovation is inevitable. It's going to happen. I mean, I just met a little girl after the race that her dad worked on one of the crews, and she just went to for her birthday, she got an easy reader, you know, where they can, I guess, they read books. I suppose it's like a Kindle or something like that. And I thought how funny, she's never going to know the romance of just turning the page of a book, you know. But that's what happens. So what I'm saying is that, you know, IndyCar got paddle shifting, which, I never minded the sequential gearbox, which is just a forward and backward shifting lever. I mean, I drove H pattern at one point in time, but, you know, paddle shifting is obviously the next level of it. Then I go back to my stock car where it's meant to be really grassroots and really, elementary stuff. It's meant to be more simple, you know, and I've got a 4-speed H pattern. And, they're just, it's just done for a different reason, but to keep it like that. So, paddle shifting is something, in IndyCar is really where I can talk about, innovation and the technical aspect, because NASCAR doesn't allow so much of that on purpose. But, we have data logging on our cars that goes straight to the pit box and pit lane to my engineers that shows everything from everything you could imagine: ride height, speed, RPM, steering traces, lateral load, shock velocities, you name it, it's got a laser for it, and it will show it. So, there's just a lot. There's everything on the engine side from, certain things in the ECU, which is sort of the motherboard of your car computer, that doesn't allow downshifts if it's going to overrev the engine. Things like that that protect the engine to make sure that it doesn't break and that, I don't break it. So, those kinds of things have come along over the years, but it's definitely come a long way. I'm sure you guys can go walk around this place and see old cars and just see how things have evolved from then and how much, in Indianapolis it was, times when they were excited to go over 150, and now we go, they had to back us down because we were almost at 250, so,
We have two cars. Speaking of that, we have Jim Clark's 1965 heavyweight car with the Lotus Ford, the first rear engine sequential shifter, first, second, boom, boom. And then also, it's Talladega, where winner in 1987 Thunderbird, which he dominated there and set the speed record in Stone Broke at 212 miles an hour. So I know NASCAR has been changing. And,
we could have gone 212 at Daytona this year, but they kept giving us different restrictor plates.
Well, it's part of the innovation for the future.
Sure, and it's part of the rules and the way that they keep it under control. But at one point in time we were going faster than the Cup cars, and I know we were going over 200 in the race on the summer Daytona, but we were, I think we must have been over 205 for sure.
Okay.
But they were giving us different restrictors and all kinds of stuff.
So
they gave us like 3 new rule changes on the weekend.
So as a driver, when those restrictions are going, which is part of the sport, what do you try and do as far as your team? What are the things you look for when you know the equipment is being restricted to a certain point?
I think that, when you change the speeds on the track, you change the handling of the car. So, as they were dropping the speed of the car, we knew that, understanding where we were in perspective to qualifying and running by ourselves was probably more important than running out there in pack, because things were going to change and the way that you ran with people was going to change.